Hello, my name is John Sveck. Welcome to this ALL24 video. Coach Waterman and I have a really special guest today. We're joined by Ryan Bechmanis. He is the defensive coordinator and linebacker coach at Queen's University. Thanks for being with us, Coach.
Thanks for having me on, guys. Really looking forward to this.
So this will be a toolbox video where we're going to talk about a drill. So Coach has done up a drill for us. I'll give him the floor and let him go through this drill for us.
Okay, great. Appreciate it, John, and looking forward to doing this. So we have the first drill we have for the linebackers is a dip and rip tackle. So what we do is we line up the linebacker just an opposite shade of an O-lineman, fullback, anybody. We put him with those bullet arms on, and all we do is ask the linebacker to cross his face, rip to get vertical, and then we roll the tackling wheel at him to kind of combine the drill. So we use this drill a lot with our guys because we teach them a couple different ways to get off the block. So we have some smaller linebackers or some more athletic guys that may not be able to use the strike and shed, kind of the shock and awe type block defeat. So we want to dip and rip around. So we'll make sure that they have a good base as they go through it, starting from a good stance. Don't want to cross our feet. We want to rip as tight as we can to the blocker with a high violent speed on their rip. Finish with that elbow up to the sky. As soon as they clear the blocker, we want them to have a good base of support so they can change direction if the wheel were to go lateral on them on this one. On the drill that we're going to see right away, we have the wheel going right at them to finish a different type of tackle. But we want to make sure as they clear the blocker, their base of support is underneath them. They've come to balance and use that shimmy technique so they can change direction. And then we want to get them attacking the wheel. We don't want them to wait for contact to come to them. We want them to attack it. We want to finish through. A big thing we do on our tackling stuff is make sure our guys understand that their feet initiate the contact. We don't want to see their arms reaching outside of their frame. We don't want to see them reaching for the wheel going forward. And then as we get to contact, you see we want their eyes up. We want them to roll their hips, get that triple extension going. For example, they can relate that to the hang clean and the power lifting they do in the gym. And then finish and run their feet through contact. So we have a couple clips of that there. And then we'll show some. And if there's any questions before we get to the video, guys, please ask.
Yeah, well, I wanted to ask, I know seeing linebackers and I guess defenders working this drill, some version of it. I know it's a great drill. And I'm interested when you have that rip and you step through, how much do you coach up on where the foot goes and replacing it? Do they try to get, are you telling them once they rip through, do you want them to sort of stack it and get tight to that, past that the blocker?
Yeah,
what's some of the things you say to them?
For sure. We try to stay right on the leveraged hip of the O-lineman. Whatever hip we're clearing through, we want to stay tight to that. We don't try to stack the O-lineman all the time because in this drill, we're in a tight scenario, just a linebacker, whether he's mugged up or whether he's blitzing through. So we find if he stacks them, he may actually be moving away from where the ball carrier is going. So we try to stay tight, replace the foot kind of behind the near hip of the offensive tackle so they still can't move their feet. So at least we can stop them from moving. We don't always want to stack because we could be stacking one way and having to break the opposite direction in terms to chase them down. So staying tight, leaning in a little bit to fight that pressure. A big thing we try to do with our guys is to make sure we know where to fight the pressure from so we don't get washed and widen our gaps. And we try to stay stable within our front play inside. So we'll stay tight to them. And rip to get vertical. As we rip, we understand that it comes from our hips. The power comes from down there. The arm action helps just clear off the O-lineman so they don't get held onto and grab. And if they do, we hopefully can draw a flag that way by doing that also.
Awesome. I had one more question. As I'm looking at your diagram, it's awesome. And your instruction and coaching points, I noticed that you have in brackets there the hang clean. So, can you talk about for some of these young guys when we tell them to go in the weight room and lift and do these things, and then how does it apply to the field? And so, sometimes they don't really understand some of the movements in the weight room that coaches are asked to do, strength coaches, and how it actually applies and helps them on the field. So I noticed you have the hang clean.
Yeah, for sure. It's just a way for our guys that with the clean and the pull part, because we do a lot of that pull from the weight to the ground to get to triple extension, even not even having to catch in the clean, but just moving that weight fast. It's the explosive movement part. So we always talk with our guys, we want to be explosive and powerful, and which relates to the functionality when they're in the gym. So they got to understand that it's not just lifting the weights to get big, strong, and bulky. We need to be fluid and move through so that the clean, the pulls, the cleans, all that stuff that they'll do in the gym will relate to that power when you go in the tackle, because when you get into the tackle, your legs being the strongest parts of your body will have to help propel your force into a tackle. That way we're not just using our shoulders and arms and getting injured that way. So we wanted them to understand that that movement from the gym translates into there. So we kind of will slow it down a little bit early in training camp or in the winter phase, where we can slow down and really teach those movements. And then hopefully they can use those keys from the gym on the field and vice versa. That's really going to help them be a more effective athlete on the football field. We got two lines going out one. So the big thing with some of these guys is to watch their base and how tight they come around. So 48 here on the right-hand side, his base is a little bit better than the guy on the other side. His feet are underneath him a little bit more, and he's tighter to the block. 44 is more working a pass rush than this so dip and rip a little bit there, but they both get good extension, both have power rip as they come through. We'd like to see those elbows clear a little more up to the sky. And now as they attack the wheel, you can really tell the tackling technique. One thing we both kind of do here, which we're trying to change in our team, is the wind up with the arms. We'd rather them start shooting their arms forward instead of doing that little bit of wind up to brace and go. But you can see how the hips are rolling through on contact. They're finishing through the wheel. And it's a nice way to go dip and rip around the old lineman. So if we keep rolling, there's a couple clips of this same drill back to back here.
I'm just curious, Coach, as I watch this, you guys are working kind of a straight head-on tackle almost on that first clip. Do you have any preference
we're working more of something that would be into the box here. So once we get through, the running back is downhill in the inside zone, or he cuts back right to you, and you have to make that profile kind of head up tackle here. So we do a lot of stuff kind of on angle tackles as well, but the odd time, especially in the box, you may meet the backer head on, the running back head on. So you have to kind of roll your hips and work that powerful force through the contact. So hopefully we've done our job and compressed the gaps outside both guys. That way they can easily fit up on the running back there. So again, as we go through here, we're winding, ripping through, and we're attacking straight up onto the wheel. So we still have to do a better job of being precise. We need to get our footwork, no false steps going with the gentleman on the left here. And then we do a good job again of attacking, clearing through, and working speed, not slowing down as we enter contact, which is pretty good for us here. You can see the difference with who stays tight to the block and who's going a little too far around the block as well. So 39 is a little bit tighter, 3 goes a little too wide on this. We'd like to keep it nice and tight so we don't put any air into our gap and give the running back too much room to move around us. We're watching our first step because we want to be balanced out of our stance too and not take too long of a first step so our base gets too wide. That way we can get knocked off balance a little bit. So we got to just keep rolling through, keep working on the little details through these techniques and staying tight, leaning in, fighting a little more pressure on that old lineman as we go through as well. And for the special teams guys that we're doing drills as well, we have both of our long snappers in this group right now working this drill through the winter phases so they get used to fighting and getting off blocks. It may not be the exact skill they're going to use in the open field, but it's good to cross-train some of those guys in there in terms of the tackling to be able to get off blocks and working those skills as well.
That's an outstanding point, Coach. I mean, I think for a lot of the newer coaches to football and they've got these specialists and they're wondering, okay, what do I do with them at different times? And, incorporating them in these drills that are meaningful to how to apply to them, I think, and thinking about where you put them in a different different situations of practice, I think is excellent. So I think that's a great point you made, Coach.
Appreciate it. Yeah, that's Coach Snyder and Coach Dandria, our head coach and special teams coordinator. We're big on trying to get our long snappers a little more reps in this. So it was a great work together with coming down from our head coach, special teams coordinator, to get those guys a little more work and help hone their skills, because you're right, it's tough to get them a specific indie period other than just long snapping. So you can see as we go through this drill, the rips are getting a little more high, a little more violent. They're starting to work those techniques a little bit. We'll work from both sides, and we start our guy on the opposite side of the block from the gap they want to go to, just so they have to work a little bit harder, just so they have to move their feet, keep their base. Instead, we can start with them just shaded correctly in the gap, but we like to sometimes put them in harder situations in practice to fight to get back into their gap and move to where they need to be.
Phenomenal. No, it looks like a great drill, Coach, and I like how you're combining, the shedding of the block, and you're getting a tackle in there, and the way you have it set up, you're definitely able to roll through and get a lot of reps in a short period of time. So it's a pretty efficient looking drill.
Awesome. Appreciate that. And like I said, we still want to get our hands up a little bit more at something we're working on. And then we still got to work a lot more on exploding through the contact and not getting on our heels when we get that, keep that forward lean going and really attack, take the air out of the gap and go.
Fantastic.